اسلام قلب آسیا جاودان بادا خاک آریا زادگاه قهرمانان جهان سنگر غیور.
Well, welcome to the soul of Afghanistan. This is a dream that I had to help spread the word of the Afghan people, their traditions, a people that I met when I lived in Afghanistan from 1968 to 1972. And normally on TV, all you see are the problems and as far as the war that's going on there. But there's so much more that the Afghan has to offer. And you will see some of the finest examples right here on the stage tonight. We will start out with a beautiful rendition of the Afghan national anthem by Ihsan Aman. I heard him in Washington, D.C. on January 27 when he entertained 3,500 Afghans as they applauded Hamid Karzai, the interim leader of Afghanistan, welcomed him to Washington. I was moved by the song. Hamid was moved. Everyone in that audience was thrilled. So you're going to hear that tonight. And then we will start with the first panel, which will be history, culture, and traditions of the Afghan up until the present time, basically. Then we will hear another song by Ihsan Aman and go to the second panel. The second panel will be a panel of women talking about women things, children, family, and the tradition of women. Rarely do you see the Afghan woman on television. Well, you're going to see them here tonight. Then the third panel will be on reconstruction and the future. So we have lots to talk about. And then at 9:30, we have a surprise for many of you. The Chargé d'Affaires, Haroun Amin, will address the audience. It was a last-minute thing that he could get here, so we're really honored to have him here. He is called Chargé d'Affaires because it's not the full-fledged legal government yet. It's only an interim government. But basically, he is the ambassador to the U.S. So we are very fortunate. He will answer some of your questions. He will charm you all as he has charmed me. Now, I would like to introduce Najib Azadzoy, who is president of the Afghan community in New England and has been extremely helpful in helping me put this together. So, say a few words.
Marilu, thank you very much for you and your committee to put up this event together. It's wonderful to be here. And I would like, on behalf of the Afghan in Massachusetts, we're about 80 families as far as I know. I would like to thank the city of Winchester, the residents, for coming tonight. Marilu asked me to say a few words in Dari, the language, one of the languages in Afghanistan, even though I don't think it is necessary because everybody speaks English, but just to give you a feeling of the echo of the voices there, I just say a few short words. حاضرین محترم و گرامی، هموطنان و مهمانان عالی قدر، تشریف‌آوری شما را به این محفلی که مریلو بیگلو تنظیم داده از طریق قلب تشکری میکنم. I think I said let's have a wonderful time.
I want you to then start questioning, to look into more. But in the back, by the way, there is a social hour afterwards where you can buy tapes. I have a cable TV show that focuses on Afghanistan. I have put 4 to a tape, they're only $20. Also, there are CDs, I believe, available by Sun, and other free articles and brochures and whatever. So we're going to have a lot of fun. And right now, let's call to the stage Isan Aman.
دوستان عزیز سلام. How's everybody? English, Farsi, mixed together. Anyway, we are going to the national anthem. Thank you.
We have Qasim Hydari, MD. We hope that Mr. Najumi will be able to make it. He's just came back from Afghanistan, and he has been on a lot of TV. You may have seen him on Fox. And I'm hoping he can make it tonight. Then we have Fozia Karzai, who owns the Helmand restaurant in Cambridge. And if you have not tried that restaurant, you better do so. It is wonderful. Food is great. A lot of fans out there. Then we have Najim, of course, you've already met, Asad Zoy. Then we have Dr. Mohammed Rahim Pushunyar. Welcome. We have our own William Vanneman, MD, who traveled to Afghanistan. And then we have Obayed Najari and Kama Habibi, who is Vice President of the Afghan community of New England. So, we shall begin. Who would like to take the first question? Don't raise your hand until all at once. I would like someone to give us just a little bit, maybe a brief history, just a very quick one. I mean, Afghanistan, after all, is an ancient land. And Danielle, could you tell us a little bit about the history you know?
Well, I am not exactly a historian, but I've read a little bit about the history of Afghanistan before I went there in the early 70s. And the reason I went there is exactly partly because of its history. It was, everybody knows, the crossroad in both directions of invasion, civilization crossing each other, starting back in the time of Darius, way before this era. And I wanted to see for myself the place where Alexander the Great spent some of the last years of his life and see the influence of the Greeks there, see the art, which is quite extraordinary, although, as you probably know, lots of the beautiful art has been destroyed recently by when the Taliban were still in power.
We could mention a little bit about Alexander the Great, of course, passed through there, and Genghis Khan, you know, in the 1200s. Okay, Najim?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I just raised my hand to make a comment that in 5-10 minutes of time, it's impossible to summarize a 5,000 years old history of a country. But just to give you a brief description of the land and the history, I would divide the history of Afghanistan into 3 periods. The pre-Islamic period, which could start at, say, from 2,500 years before Christ. There are archaeological discoveries that civilization existed. That coming down to the time of Persian Empire occupation, and then Alexander the Great. And after the Alexander the Great, there was a civilization of the Bactrian in the north of Afghanistan. And then we go to the Koshan and the Buddhism, where the time of statues of Buddhas that unfortunately were destroyed by Taliban. So that's the pre-Islamic. And then the coming of Islam in the 7th century, we see things change in Afghanistan. So that began in the 7th century, and the Arabs came first, but soon after the Arabs, the people accepted Islam, the native Afghans established their own dynasties in history, like the Ghaznavids in Ghazni at the 9th, 10th century. It was a glorious time. now the third part would be the modern history of Afghanistan, where the name Afghanistan came to exist in the 18th century, early 18th century, 19th.
And this is, as you can hear, this is an ancient land with so much history. Can you imagine that these people would ever forget their land, even though they're here? They love this country, but they can never forget their own country. And that's what we're trying to say. Let's talk to Dr. Pushtaniar. What can you add as far as, I know that you've been working on many, many different organizations to do with, well, drugs and all kinds of organizations. What could you add to the history of Afghanistan?
I think what we have, this is the history. The only thing we have, this is the history. And this history is coming to the new century, I would say, the liberation of the country, in the formation of the government in the country in 1740 like this. The Ahmad Shah Afghanistan is the type of confederation among the different tribes. This was like a tribal confederation. And plus, they give us a country which is going up to be centralized. And it's give us a country between two powers at that time, the British Empire and the Russian.
And I imagine a lot of you heard about the 3 British wars.
And yes, this is a part of history, and our grandfathers, they give us the chance to live bravely and independently and keep country independently. And this was the sacrifice up till now. Because the Russian aggression was the part of the very, very important history of Afghanistan. And people sacrificed and were known. And now we are facing problems because of the terrorism, because of the warlords, because of the drug problems, because of the destruction. And I think Afghans all over the world, they think, how can they continue the history for development? Because my country, they developed resistance, and then they show how to liberate and independent the countries from the British Empire. And then this is the history. Our countrymen, they give blood to keep country independent and survive under the very bloody dimension of war against the Russian communism. And I think we are facing very dark time of the history too, which we think world will realize and they will come up to support the generations of the country in the Central Asia. They are teaching how to keep country liberated from the outsiders in India.
Well, I think also you're saying too that this is a crossroads for Central Asia to the Middle East, etc. And it's very important that we not turn our backs on the country again, that the world needs to help Afghanistan remain independent. and not let the Al-Qaeda's and all, hide in the mountains and in the caves, etc. It was just it was too easy. That's the trouble, I think. It was just too easy for the outsiders to hide. Let's talk a little bit about, the country is made up of various ethnic groups. We have the Pashtuns, as you know, the ruling class basically from about the mid-1700s. Then we have the Tajiks and the Uzbeks up in the north. We have the Hazaras. And in fact, I'd like to go by to Najati to speak to that, about the different makeup.
Actually, it's of utmost importance to keep in mind to realize the ethnic dimension of the situation in Afghanistan. And unfortunately, the ethnic factor is the point that usually is overlooked by analysts and by policymakers. That is because ethnic factor is not only the factor that best explains the path of Afghanistan and the roots of the current conflict, but also it's the factor that will provide us with the most effective mechanism to achieve a meaningful and lasting peace in Afghanistan. Now, being at the crossroads of civilizations between various groups of peoples, Afghanistan is home to many different ethnic groups. Indeed, it's a mosaic of peoples, races, ethnicities, and languages. There are 4 major ethnic groups in Afghanistan. The Pashtuns, they make up 38% of the population. Then there are the Tajiks, who make up 26% of the population. And there are my people, there are my people, the Hazaras, who make up 20% of the population. And then the fourth, there are the Uzbeks, who make up about 9% of the population. These are the 4 major ethnic groups in Afghanistan. And these figures are based on credible sources such as the CIA fact book, the State Department country studies, and such. So, having that in mind, it's also important to realize that Afghanistan is a nation of minorities. In other words, no ethnic group in Afghanistan has the majority status in the country. And that has very crucial political and social ramifications for the current situation in Afghanistan and also for the future of the country. And so as such, I've always urged the international community, since Afghanistan came under spotlight, I've urged international community to keep the ethnic dimension of the situation in Afghanistan in mind, if they want to achieve a lasting and meaningful peace in Afghanistan. Because if the ethnic factor is overlooked, and if the historically justified and legitimate demands of various ethnic groups are not addressed effectively, then any hope, any effort for achieving stability and lasting peace in Afghanistan would be an exercise in futility.
Thank you, everybody. We have to move on. I'd like you to say something, Dr. Khyber. Dr. Khyber loves life. He had taught Farsi to many different foreigners in Afghanistan when they visited. And he would do that during the day, and then he would go to the hospital and work at night. Tell us, let's talk about the wonderful time that it was from, say, the 1950s to the 1970s, and what we miss. And then I'm going to have Dr. Hanlon talk a little bit about that as well. So if you would start.
Before I start with myself, I'm Catherine Kennedy, physician in Connecticut. I graduated Afghanistan University, which was affiliated with the University of Lyon in France. We have a university affiliation with the United States called the Engineering School for Law, taught by the American professor as well as the French professor. So we had a very excellent education in our country, the time that monarch was running the country. I just want to touch bases about the ethnic of Afghanistan. Even we have multi-ethnic people, but we have lived in peace and harmony for 100 years. There have been some local here and there, and the invaders came, but nobody had been able to conquer Afghanistan. My predecessor mentioned about the Uzbek and the Hazaras and this and that, but we had, during the monarch, 50 years of peace and harmony. There was no problem until the outsiders started corrupting the system and Russia came. And of course, once the Russians were defeated, we had a lot of Afghans and a weapon from the United States. We lost a lot of human lives. And finally, the United States at that time probably left Afghanistan in a totally disaster situation. And that's what we are paying now to fill that gap and that area that we left without any supervision, without any law and order. A lot of educated people like myself and a million others went to other part of the world because the majority of Afghans in Afghanistan was killed because they were the voice of people. They were not working for government, they were independent, as well as a lot of other educated people left the country, so a blood drain started. To mention about my education, I had educated in Afghanistan. The system is 7 years of medical school. And at that time, my family economically was not a very prosperous family. I had to work, support my family, nine members of the family, as well as study medical school. So what I used to do, I used to teach the American Embassy, the Care Medical, and AID, with the three groups of the Americans in Afghanistan, the Persian language. I used to study from 6 o'clock till 8 in the morning in the American Embassy, the language for the diplomats. For them was mandatory that they had to be able to communicate with people and get around, do their shopping, be able to get with the local people. So, and lunchtime in medical school, I used to leave 12 o'clock with my bicycle and go study, teach another part till 2 o'clock and come back to class, and as well as after. So I used to teach for 5 years, 6 hours daily language to make some income for the family, and at the same time I finished my medical school. I came to the United States in '70, and since then I've been practicing medicine.
Thank you so much. And he must be a wonderful doctor because he married his wife, and his wife will speak later. She had broken her leg while she was touring in Afghanistan. She met the good doctor and married him, and has been happy ever since. And they have another quite wonderful family story that his wife Nancy will talk about later. Felicia, would you? You come from a large family. Are 7 brothers, and you are the one sister. They, as far as I can see, adore their sister. In fact, I called Felicia about a week, 2 weeks ago, and I picked up the phone, and she said, "Oh, I just got off the phone with Hamid, her brother, Hamid Karzai." And I said, "Wow, it's amazing what communications are like nowadays." But when I met Felicia, I said, "My goodness gracious, what a lovely, lovely lady." And once I knew that it was her brother who was going to run the interim government, I said, "Boy, they're going to be okay." Because steady family, very dedicated, and very Afghan, as a unified Afghanistan is in their family history. So, Felicia, I'd just like to welcome you, of course. And talk a little bit about what it means, your country. I know that you're here, you have restaurants, about 3 restaurants around the country. You've done very well, but I know we have talked, and you said you definitely, your heart is there, and you will definitely go back and forth. Talk a little bit about Afghanistan, what it means to you.
Thank you very much. It's my first time that I'm speaking in front of audience. I'm sorry. If I make a mistake, there is one thing in my mind all the time that I just want from my Afghan people, that they should work, they should consider themselves as an Afghan. They should work as an Afghan. They should not consider themselves only Pashtun or Tajik or Uzbek or Hazara. We are all. And I have another thing to say. I have to say it in Pashto, in my language, but we have something. كزاين تزايم أو توعي تزايم نبتية نبتية كتوعي تتية أو زاين تتية أم بتية أم بتية أم بتية. I can translate this one in English, but I hope the meaning is good. If you say that I am the only one, and I say I am the only one, you don't exist and I don't exist. If you say you are the one, and you say you are the one, then your both exist. That's what I want from Afghan people. We are all the same. You are all Afghan people. There is no Tajik, there is no Pashtun. We are all Afghan. We should work as an Afghan. And that's my message for all of you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Vanneman, a lot of you know Dr. Vanneman from Winchester Hospital. A very fine doctor indeed. He certainly has done his magic on my mother, and she's doing very well. Dr. Vanneman, I know ever since we met 20 years ago, 10 years, 15 years ago, I happened to mention that I was in Afghanistan. Oh, really? And so every time we see each other, we kind of reminisce a little bit about that country. I believe you only spent a couple of weeks there, but he's never forgotten it, just like I've never forgotten that country. What is it that makes us remember and just think so highly of it? What is it? Can you put your finger on it?
I think that a lot of it is represented by the people who are here today, in that I don't think anyone would describe the Afghans as being shy. They I spent a year between my medical training traveling through Central Asia, and of all the places that I was most welcome, this was clearly the most fun that I had. Walking by a basketball court one day, and somebody threw me a basketball, and I shot a basket. I was fairly good at that point in my life, and within a few minutes we had a game that was, occupying 25 or 30 people, and I just simple things like that. And I was immediately invited to other people's houses. It was just a wonderful experience in traveling from Kabul, Kandahar, Herat. These were experiences where I just had wonderful times, wonderful memories of people in every single place that I went. It was very different from a lot of the other places that I traveled to. Just an extremely open, friendly society, no matter who I was with. And I will always treasure all those memories.
I think that's what it is. I have never ever forgotten it. And I want to tell you that when I stood among 3,500 Afghans who applauded Hamid Karzai on January 27th in Washington, D.C., I said, I'm home. It was just something. But it's just hard to explain. Now, we have Kamar. Talk to us about your country and what you love about it.
The country that I left, it was a peaceful country. We didn't have any problems of security or being beaten up in the streets. I'm talking about women. And politically, we have only one political prisoner in our whole country. And he was told by the king, Zahir Shah, that to leave, we don't want to keep you, and he was refusing to leave. And that was the country that I left, and I was in school and graduated from journalism school in Afghanistan, came to the United States alone by myself, and got my master's degree from Indiana University, and went back to Afghanistan. There was no problems. I never heard any cover on my head with the word at work, which otherly. And the woman came out of that burqa. It was during the Zahir Shah in late 50s, I believe. 1958. Yes, I was very young then. And people were, they left their chalaris and came out on their free will. Nobody forced them. And somehow, I believe women now, they're straight-shot and they don't get out much from their homes, although they are told that there is no threat of the Al-Qaeda or whatever. Even if they were oppressing them. They don't, I believe they don't want to go out too much, or they don't want to get out of that burqa. Somehow either they refuse to show their beautiful faces to the people that they don't deserve to watch at their or look at their faces, or somehow they don't want to leave that burqa unless they're secure.
I'm going to talk more about that on the second panel probably. But I want to welcome Niamatola Najumi to our panel. He has just written a book called The Rise of Taliban in Afghanistan, and make me remember the rest, mass mobilization, and whatever. He is a Central Asian expert and is on a team of Tufts team who is advising USAID in the reconstruction. And his expertise is the political end of it. Well, we are so lucky because he just returned from Afghanistan a couple of days ago, and he's heading out again in a couple of more days. So we grabbed him right in the middle, So I want to welcome him, and I'd like you to say a few words. I'm hoping that you'll be able to stay for the third panel. Oh, we are so lucky. Okay. Tell us a little bit about when you left, maybe. I know, and later we'll talk a little bit more about what you see there. Or if you feel you better get it in now, say it now. You just got back, so. Oh, by the way, one other thing. You spent time, about 10 years fighting over there as well?
Yes, I was involved with the Afghan resistance forces during the Soviet invasion.
He has seen it all. This man has seen it all. Go ahead.
First of all, thank you for you to organize this magnificent event. And it's just great to see all friendly faces and with a lot of support, and especially to see all these wonderful Afghan people, and which we unfortunately never have the time to spend together. As you mentioned, my trip to Afghanistan is sponsored by the USAID and organized by Tufts University. The core of our study was to study economic security and political survival of Afghanistan, and we concentrated on 3 years of drought and how people really coped with all these trauma they went through. There were so many issues in all levels. The first thing you enter Afghanistan, we arrived at the Bagram airport. In the car, people were playing music, and the team who visited before me Afghanistan, they were like excited, or it was kind of shocking for them for a minute. Oh wow, music in Afghanistan. And then we went to the city and we started our workshop and talking with people, and you could see the level of joy and the smiles on the faces of everybody, the children, the women, the men on the street. We moved to different parts of Afghanistan. We covered part of Nangarhar, Helmand, Kandahar, Herat, Farah, Gor. And all these areas, there were so many things that we need to discuss with people and people want to share with us. It was interesting and probably one of the first study that been done in Afghanistan within a scholarly background and also understanding about the needs of the Afghan people at this moment.
Well, you will, I mentioned to the audience before you arrived that you've been on Fox lately. You're going to be on again when now? The 7th? March 7th?
On Thursday.
On
I think,
Thursday. He will be on Fox. What time? 5:15?
I think it is morning, 10:30.
Oh, a morning one. Okay, but you'll see him a lot. And you'll probably start talking about your book now, discussing?
The book is the result of years of study on Afghanistan on a variety of different levels. For me, as a young boy caught in a war during the Soviet invasion in a very young age was very dramatic. And also, it was an educational process for me to know many parts of the country. I had the opportunity to travel from west to the east of the country by foot and also the primitive means of transportation existed at the time, and visit villages and towns and provinces, meet so many different ethnic groups. And it was a great opportunity. In the meantime, as a young boy at the time, it was difficult for me to understand a lot of the grievances that the Afghan people were facing. I do remember there are so many memories, fine memories I do have. I remember entering to one of the districts in Pashtun Zargon in northwest of Herat, just bombed. It was I do believe 84, and massive of blood and flash on the ground, and people were running everywhere. I had a little kit of first aid kit, and tried to help people. We entered to another village, at another part of the village, and there was a man who was the arbab of that, or the head of the village. He was bleeding on a scratch, and people were carrying him out, and he said, "Welcome to my village," while he was bleeding. And for me, many scenes like that were unforgettable and made me to stay with people, be in touch, and work with them. And finally, I do believe that the Afghan struggle was very legit and valuable, not only for the Afghans, but also for the world community at the time.
I want to ask a question, but I think I'll wait till the third panel on this. But right now, what I'd like to do is thank all of you so much for your input. And at this time, I would like Isan to come out and sing another song. If you would just stay in your places until he has finished, then we will change to the second panel. So, Isan, take it away.
Hello? Yeah, there you go. I'd like to say a couple of things. I'm not a good spokesperson like the honorable panelists here. I either have to sing or speak, you know. I can only do one thing. And this song that I'm trying to sing will be for my beloved wife, Sahar. She's here among the panels. She's been always with me. And as you notice, I don't have any of my musicians here. It was in the middle of the week, they could not take off. So pretty much my musician is the sound person there. Have a round of applause for him. Thank you very much. All right. A little bit higher in the music, please. And the whole overall, just, yeah, thank you. There you go. The second track, please.
دیدم تا به سحر محو روی سحر است دیدم تا به سحر محو روی سحر است تا پیش سینه من قصه گوی سحر است شبنم خاطره ها باغ رویای سحر چشم گردون فگنم عشق در پای سحر بال بگشاده شب کرده خورشید نهاد بال بگشاده شب کرده خورشید نهاد باز کار من و دل جست و جوی سحر است باز کار من و دل جست و جوی سحر است تپش سینه من قصه گوی سحر است شبنم خاطره ها باغ رویای سحر چشم گردون فگنم عشق در پای سحر ناز هر جلوه ما دیگری دل نکشد ناز هر جلوه ما دیگری دل نکشد که سراپا همه در آرزوی سحر است که سراپا همه در آرزوی سحر است دیدم تا به سحر محو روی سحر است شبنم خاطره ها باغ رویای سحر چشم گردون فگنم عشق در پای سحر.
It's all good things about Sahar. Thank you very much.
Today, I am delighted to introduce to you Ahsan Aman, who is an Afghan recording artist, and his wife, Sahar Aman, who is the manager. and their company is Fifth String Entertainment. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So great to have you here. When I saw you January 27th at Georgetown University at the big event welcoming Hamid Karzai to all 3,500 Afghans, it was just such a thrilling night.
Very
the
emotional.
People, emotional, everyone applauding and stamping their feet when Hamid Karzai came in. And then remember the children all dressed in costumes and how they sang their little song. That was wonderful. And then I heard a man's voice, yours, Ehsan. It was wonderful. You sang the national anthem.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about, it's your rendition of the national anthem and how old that is, et cetera.
I believe from what I've been told, it's at least 5 or 6 years old, and then they played the national anthem at the opening ceremony, at the inauguration ceremony in Afghanistan, when Mr. Karzai was elected the interim government leader. So, and then they didn't have any copy of that or the original recording of it, and that's how they contacted me to do the rearrangement of the music. And then in such a short little time, we had to stay awake like three nights and finish it, and that's how we did it.
Well,
and,
it was wonderful.
Yeah, and a friend of mine, actually, his name is Dag Lohman. He helped me with the arrangement of the.
That's right. Well, in your band, you have Dag Lohman on keyboard.
On keyboard, yes.
And your brother, Khalid.
Khalid, actually, he's also in our band. He plays guitar, lead guitar.
Yes.
And Amir, actually, he's my brother-in-law, so this is a very family thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
A
he
family
plays
affair.
Family affair,
Bass,
yeah. He plays the bass, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it was wonderful that night, and so many tears, and
I know, it was such an
the
emotional
same
moment. I
with
had
me.
tears, and yeah.
Oh, it was absolutely wonderful. And so I'm so thrilled to have you on the show now. Let's talk a little bit about how it all began with you and your singing career. I'm going way back to Kabul. How old were you when you first realized?
Yeah, actually, I started, as far as I remember, I started playing music when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And I was involved in high school concerts. And then actually my father was a big influence in my music career.
Now, how did he influence you?
He was actually he plays good robab, the Afghan traditional instrument.
Oh, okay.
He was very good at it. And then I wanted to play instrumental.
An instrument.
Yeah, an instrument. But he said, no, you better sing because your voice, he was telling me your voice is good and you have to pursue, singing.
Well, he knew.
Yeah. And then he coached me all the time, like, oh, you're out of tune, or repeat that, and basically taught me all the basics of music.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And then when we moved to Kabul, we actually lived in a province called Helmand province.
Yes.
And
like the restaurant in Cambridge.
Yeah, exactly. Then I finished high school in Helmand province, and then I had to move to Kabul to pursue my college education and all that. That's how I got involved with music and national TV and radio and all.
That's right, because you said that you were on Radio Kabul.
Yes.
And then national TV came in the 70s, I guess.
Yes.
Once Mohammed Daoud had taken over the government.
Yeah.
And and then how long did you sing there?
Actually, it wasn't too long. It was like for 3-4 years actually, and then the situation was so bad that
When the Russians
the
came
Russian
in?
yeah, they were forcing all the singers to sing pro-regime, pro-communist. Yeah, and I could not take that, and they put me under a lot of pressure, and that's why I had to leave.
Notice the Afghans really don't stand out very much as far as, you know, they seem to assimilate very well into the culture. Have you found that?
Yes, I'm proud to say that they're very hardworking, and in very, very short time, they all made a life for themselves and blended in, and
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
They're very successful.
Yes. It's a little hard for the older ages,
Right,
like
of
over
course.
the middle,
Yeah.
because
Right. If there was a
they get stuck
sure
inside the house and stuff. They get bored a little bit, but as far as the rest of them,
the younger
they
people
all-
and the young girls, you know, really modern.
Yeah, they
dress,
are
just
very
like-
modern. Yeah.
And it's just been absolutely such a pleasure to have both of you on.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you for
and
having us.
Thank you.
Good to
Isan,
be here.
Aman,
Good to be here.
It is wonderful, and boy, I'm ready to get up and dance. Okay, so.
حله اسلام قلب آسیا جاودان بادا خاک آریا زادگاه قهرمانان جهان سنگر غیور مردان خدا الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر تیغ ایمانش با میدان جهان بند استبداد را از هم گسست ملت آزاده افغانستان در جهان زنجیر محکومان شکست الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر سرخط قرآن نظام ما بود بیرق ایمان و بام ما بود هم صدا و هم نوا و هم زبان وحدت ملی مرام ما بود الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر شاد زی آزاد زی آباد زی ای وطن در نور قانون خدا مشعل آزادگی را برفراز مردم سرگشته را شو رهنما الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اسلام قلب آسیا جاودان بادا خاک آریا زادگاه قهرمانان جهان سنگر
Okay, let's call on Nancy Kybury. Nancy, now, she is the young woman who broke her leg and met the fine doctor in Afghanistan. And she's been laughing and singing and dancing ever since, right? Tell us, Nancy, about your recent journey to Pakistan or about a year ago, right, and what happened. Tell the audience.
Well, I just wanted to say first that it's sad that you have all been introduced to Afghanistan by seeing it on television now and seeing the war, not really understanding what Afghanistan used to be like. When I was in my 20s, I traveled a great deal through the Middle East and Europe, and when I got to Afghanistan, I felt like I was home. I wrote my parents and said I found my home, and they said, terrific, we can't even find it on the map. Nobody knew where Afghanistan was. But when I was there, as Mary Lou said, I had an accident and met my husband, and the American Embassy brought him in to see me because he was English speaking. And then when I came home, we wrote for a year, and I went back and we got married. And that was 33 years ago that I met him. And we came back to the States so that he could do residency, and we intended to live in Afghanistan for the rest of our lives because I absolutely loved it. The people are the warmest, friendliest people. You've never seen a country like that. It was absolutely beautiful. And no matter where you went, everybody welcomed you with open arms. Then the war came and things changed and we couldn't go back. But in 1992, Qasim's family came over the mountains into Peshawar and called us and said they were there. So I went over and found them all and moved them to a place in Islamabad. Then the Taliban came, and we were afraid of his young nieces that if they had to go back to Afghanistan, how would they live there the way they were treating women? So I went to Pakistan, and after several months was finally able to adopt the 3 girls and bring them back here with our 3 children, so we had 6 children, but it's been the greatest experience, and it's made a life for them that they never would have had. And one of the things that we want to stress to everybody is there are about 1 million war orphans in Afghanistan and in Pakistan. And we urge everybody to write to their senators and congressmen, to President Bush, to continue the aid to Afghanistan even after the war is finished. We have 1 million children with no homes, many of them disabled with the landmines, the war, and we need to get some kind of legislation in gear to facilitate adoption. They're not children of Afghanistan, they're children of the world. They're all of our children, and we need to take care of them.
Thank you, Nancy. So well spoken. And I'm going to jump right to you, Donna Lee.
We have a publication every month called the Rotarian Magazine. I received mine yesterday. On the cover of this magazine, there is a plea to help the refugees in Afghanistan. Presidential conferences, Rotarians respond to Afghan refugee crisis. And in here on one of the pages, on page 18, there is a picture of immunization of the children in Afghanistan now and plans for the future to give them polio vaccines to eradicate polio in Afghanistan. Prior to now, it's been such a challenge to reach these children, being in the mountaintops and not being able to access them to come forward to the immunization days. So not only are we now rising to help the orphans, rising to help the refugee camps, but we're aggressively going into Afghanistan, using the Rotarians in many clubs in Pakistan to immunize the children. I'll also add that the Rotary clubs in Pakistan have been wonderful to come and bring relief and blankets and shoes and foodstuffs to the refugee camps. We worldwide are holding hands to help this effort.
You've done a wonderful job for Rotary. Okay, let's talk to Jennifer Leaning, Dr. Leaning. Would you tell us what it was like? You just came back from there studying the women. Tell us a little bit about what you saw.
Well, thank you, Mary Lou. It is an honor to be here, and it was my second trip to Afghanistan. The first I made in 1969 as a young student traveling through. My mother was teaching in the American school in Kabul for 2 years there, and it was the strangest and most magnificent place I had ever seen. And I had been throughout Africa, most of Asia, had hitchhiked through Vietnam during the war, and I hit Afghanistan, and the mountains, the high, clear air, the friendliness of the people, very beautiful gardens, gorgeous museums and libraries. So I was back this time in January with some preparation. Obviously, we've all read what's been going on. The war and the drought have devastated large parts of the country, large parts of Kabul. We went overland from Kabul through the Salang Pass, which had just opened in the high Hindu Kush, built by the Russians and with help from other groups in Europe, then destroyed during the wars and just reopened. The staggering issues that face Afghanistan now are going to be discussed, I think, in the third panel on reconstruction. Physicians for Human Rights sent me as one of a three-person team to look at the situation and help advise the organization about our agenda for the next 2 or 3 years in terms of helping to support reconstruction work. We have come back based on our work and the work of one of our members who has been in Afghanistan many times over the last 2 or 3 years, Dr. Lynn Amowitz. And she was the one who did the study of the 1,000 women, a randomized sample throughout Afghanistan. And that report was just published in September of 2001. Her work was looking at the condition of the women under the Taliban. And the fundamental point is that it was a phenomenally oppressive regime for men and women, but women were particularly singled out. And they could not be in public unless they were with a man. They had to stay completely covered whether they wanted to or not. There was marked restriction on access to medical care, which is reflected now in terrible indices in terms of maternal mortality and women's health and children's health and immunization. Women could not get educated. The little girls couldn't go to school. The fear they had from the Taliban vice squads that would be roaming the streets was tremendous. And several people have already talked about the palpable sense of joy you felt in the streets now, going back. I would be passing women who were still in the Shadari. People are still the women are still very carefully covered. And it's partly cultural, and it's not clear what's going to happen. Things in Afghanistan are going to require a lot of work and help from Americans and Europe to stabilize and support the reconstruction efforts. So the women, as with all people in Afghanistan, are hopeful but wary because they have seen this happen before. You know, the United States has gone in and then we left much too soon last time. So women are covered, but as you walk on the street, I catch their eyes through the Shadari, and so I don't speak any Dari or any of the languages, so I will just say sort of hello in English and bow to them, and I can see their hands come out from the Shadari and they're going like this, or they're waving, or they're doing thumbs up and their eyes crinkle. There's a sense of life there that is just remarkably wonderful and should give us all hope.
Well, talking about the Shadari, Razia, John, why don't you show the audience Shadari? And you hear burqa all the time, but in Afghanistan, we call it the Shadari. Thank you for putting it on. Now, Razia she did this on my program, and I have, by the way, a tape of her doing this, and it was just wonderful. Be careful you don't fall. And she says that you could see very easily.
Oh, but this tape we did of her was so wonderful. I made copies of it, her alone. It would be a great thing for schools, you know, to play. But anyway, Razia, that's great. So why don't you continue talking a little bit about the women? And I know you have, you're looking at trying to find some little books, you were telling me. Tell the audience. Razia, talk a little bit about the women.
Yes, you know, women's, I think in Afghanistan, woman is a very strong figure. In the background, a man cannot really make any decision. If they, in a family, the grandmother is there, and she is head of the family, no matter how far her children are. And if there is a decision to be made about a marriage, about any kind of a family decision, I think she would be the first one to be concerned. And then she's the one who will decide, and very quietly and gently, she will tell her husband, you know, you should do this with this son, and say this to this daughter-in-law, and say this to that son-in-law. And believe me, next morning, exactly that would be done. And she would be in the background, and she would not say a word. And then she will take side of her son and say to her husband, well, why are you talking like this? You know, so it's just amazingly that how powerful women's really are in Afghanistan. And it's very unfortunate that they were put in a position that it was hard for them to survive. But you know, if you look at these refugees women and look at in Afghanistan, I have few cousins who are still there, and they are the most strongest women, and very, very powerful in a way that they survived. And they took care of their families, and they took care of their children, although they are widowed, and some of them have lost brothers, fathers, sons, and still. And really, the chadari that you are talking about, in a lot of situations, of course, it was forced in the later years by the Taliban, but in the beginning, when the king was there, or in the villages, it was really done for the protection of the younger girls, because nobody wanted their daughter to be seen by another man, because they wanted them to be pure. And when she got married, she would be, you know, nobody has seen her, nobody has touched her. So it is very traditional. It's not really force. And in Kabul, nobody wore burqa, nobody wore chadari, nobody, if you didn't want to, nobody forced you. And you were encouraged since 1958 that, you know, you were actually not allowed to wear a chadari at work or anywhere. So this chadari is a protection, and I think if you see thousands of women there wearing these chadaris, that's their savior. That kept them going.
Well, I've often said, you know, with the dust there, what a wonderful protection that is. You know, it would, you came here in 1978.
Yes, I came in 1978. I was very young. I was around 12.
12, yeah, naturally.
Yeah.
And
my dad was, he worked for the Afghan embassy as first secretary. That's why we, as a child, I traveled a lot. I went to U.S. Actually, we stayed here for 3 years, and that's where I went to kindergarten. And we had to go back, and right when we went back was the time when the Russians were trying to invade Afghanistan, and the war had begun, and one day they took my dad and my uncle away. He never made it home. and we waited for about a year. My mom was very young. She was in her very early 30s, 32, I think. We weren't safe there anymore, so after a year of waiting for my dad with no news, we had to leave, but we didn't have to escape from the mountains or anything. We had friends who worked. Yeah.
I think you told me that Isan did
My
have to
husband
escape.
had to, yeah. My husband had started singing there in college and had a couple of concerts there, and they were telling him only to sing communist songs, but in one of his concerts he sang a song that offended the Russian regime and the communists, so they were looking for him, so he had to hide and escape to Pakistan.
Said bye-bye.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. To say
Well,
bye-bye.
anyway, our luck or our joy. And how about Roxanne Malakiyar? Wasn't that a wonderful day in front of the embassy with your dear, dear father, Abdullah Malakiyar, who's 92, still going strong, wanted to come here. She had to tell him, you can't come, because he did fall and he hurt his knees, I guess. But he was so thrilled that day to see the flag, and he asked me if I had got a picture of it, and I didn't actually get a picture of the raising of it. But I did get him on film along with Roxanne. I know that you spent a lot of time in the embassy in Washington, the 1967 to 77. Now, did you go back to Afghanistan after that, or were you already here?
In 1977, my father was transferred to Iran. And we lived in Iran for about a year and a half before the Russian occupation of Afghanistan. And at that time, he lost his post, and one by one, we returned to the United States.
What do you remember of Afghanistan?
Actually, I left there when I was 4.
Oh, you don't remember too much.
Not too much, but I did return when I was 19, only for about a month. And I also found it to be a very wonderful, hospitable place. The people were incredibly nice. I went with a very American mentality, of course, growing up here.
Of course.
And I truly loved it. It was wonderful.
Right. Well, I'm American. I loved it, so there you are. Now, who do we... oh, Kamar, you're not going to get away with anything. We have to hear you. What do you want to say about the women? You did talk a little bit about it. Let's...
I don't know where to start. My heart is, and my mind is so full of beautiful memories of Afghanistan that I could sit here and talk until dawn or dusk or whatever. And I really want to emphasize on the plight of the women through all these years of invasion of foreigners from the Russian or from the time that the communist regime took over. Women suffered quite a setback. Instead of taking steps forward, they were actually driven steps backward. And they tried to reach to some point to get their education and to get their schooling somewhere in Afghanistan. If they were not part of the Communist Party or part of the regime, they were either imprisoned or kicked out of the school. And then they were operative of the communist regime, girls, probably, of course, there were boys as well. And the minute you opened your mouth, if it was something against the regime, then immediately you were in prison. As a matter of fact, I met somebody a couple of years ago, and he said, well, I said, we don't want these foreigners, and she was a student. And the next hour or so when she went home, and here were some soldiers came to the door and picked her up and put her to the Sidarat, they call it a small place for interrogation, and they took her there. Her father was a very well-known person. He bribed here and there these officers, and in the morning, they took her out and immediately they fled the country. And that was the regime that was then. And then in 1992, when the regime of communists and the Soviets totally left Afghanistan, the other government came as Mujahideen, and then it was another setback for the women who were communists or who were working with the communist regime. And they were actually tortured and imprisoned by the replaced government. And here it was the refugees of the educated, whatever left in Afghanistan, they came to Peshawar or to Pakistan actually, and to Iran, and then they fled to other countries. When the Mujahideen regime collapsed and the Taliban and Al-Qaeda came later on, there was a promise for the women and the country that they will bring peace, actually. Why the Taliban came, as far as I know and read the papers and all other things, it was the corruption and the rape and the abduction of young women, and those were the issue that it really hits the core of the Afghan pride that their women should not be assaulted physically or sexually, which was very rampant in probably 1994 or so, within those periods. And when the Taliban came they promised that they will bring law and order. For a year or so, there was such a, regime that oppressed everybody. And they said, here we are, we brought this law and order. Of course, there was law and order. And then they issued all these decrees, astonishingly, wrong decrees. It was coming from somewhere from the Twilight Zone, that women should do this, women should do that. They left the country all, the whole problem of the country was abundant. And they picked on those women. Women's issue, women should do this, women should do that. And then if they said something and they beaten up their husbands, their sons. And that was the most destructive thing. And then of course, when the world abandoned them, and the Al-Qaeda thought, here is a good house, let's go and grab it. And actually they went there, and bin Laden gave his daughter actually to that mullah, so-called mullah Omar.
Right. Who is not an Afghan. Bin Laden is not an Afghan.
Yes, bin Laden is, of course, he's from another country, from Saudi Arabia or wherever he came from. We don't know that, or Yemen for that matter. But they became related. In the Afghan culture, when you're related, no matter how corrupt that person is, the host or the person who's related to, they have to protect them. Although it's against...
Right,
but,
it's like the guest in the country, right? If you have a guest in your village,
yes,
you must treat that person like a guest.
And also is another thing in Afghanistan, in the Afghan culture, when somebody seeks refuge in your house, no matter how corrupt, how disgraced that person is, they protect that person. They would not allow that person to go and give them to the enemy or to the law in the army or whatever, the person is coming to pick him up. Right. They would refuse. And that was the reason that they took advantage, the Arabs or the foreigners, they took advantage of that particular cultural values of Afghanistan and destroyed
We have to do a show just on those customs coming up. We'll touch on that. Just one very quick word from Fozia about the women and how she thinks her brother is going to work with the women.
I have to say that I am proud of Afghan women. They are intelligent, they are brave, and I want from the world, and especially United States, to stay in our country for a long term. That's my hope, and in my wish of people. Thank you.
Thank you, Fozia. And I want to thank the panel. We could go on and on. I told you we were just going to touch on everything, but I think you did a wonderful job. And if you would just sit where you are, because we are now going to have Ihsan Aman sing another song.
حله اسلام قلب آسیا جاودان بادا خاک آریا زادگاه قهرمانان جهان سنگر غیور مردان خدا الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر تیغ ایمانش با میدان جهان بند استبداد را از هم گسست ملت آزاده افغانستان در جهان زنجیر محکومان شکست الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر سرخط قرآن نظام ما بود بیرق ایمان به بام ما بود هم صدا و هم نوا و هم زبان وحدت ملی مرام ما بود الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر شاد زی آزاد زی آباد زی ای وطن در نور قانون خدا مشعل آزادگی را برفراز مردم سرگشته را شو رهنما الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر وطن نزد ما افتخاری وطن نزد ما لاله‌زاری وطن نزد ما روحتن وطن نزد ما زرنگار
our
قلعه اسلام قلب آسیا جاودان بادا خاک آریا زادگاه قهرمانان جهان.
Okay, we're ready for the third panel. We're going to talk about Reconstruction and the future. With us today, we have Torialai Amiri, who is an MD. We have Weiss Nasser, who is an MIS manager. Then Niamatoli Najumi, I mentioned him before. And Fozia Karzai, you've met. Najim Ezadzoy. We have Dr. Dastgir, and then Farhad Ahad, who traveled here from North Carolina. And what is the name of your, news, Afghan Solidarity. So you can talk to him on the internet. The commander, right? And then we have Paul Fitzgerald from Winchester and his lovely wife, Elizabeth Gould, who are authors and journalists. And what are the names of your books now? Afghanistan, The End of the Illusion, The Voice, and then you also have a video called Afghanistan Between Three Worlds. So we will start with, let's start with Najim Ezadzoy. Talk a little bit about Reconstruction when you last visited, what you saw there.
Well, Mary Lou, I'd like to say a little bit about the past. I received my architectural degree in Afghanistan in 1978 at Kabul University. At that time, we had a wonderful school of architecture. My thesis advisor was from Cornell University, Professor Peter Cohen. My design professor was from Harvard University, Professor Albert Szabo, who lives in Lexington now. We just finished the school, and we were young, and we were anxious to start work in the country, build our home. Russians came, or communists changed the system. A year later, Russians came. I began teaching at the Kabul University, and then I also practiced a little bit. But the time came that I had to leave. I decided to leave. I had to leave because of the Russian system. And since that, I came to the United States as a young Afghan refugee. I was lucky to go to MIT and get a graduate degree from School of Architecture at MIT. And since that, I've been practicing. In 1993, in Afghanistan during those 1978s before the communists, I could tell you that there were only 30 to 35 architects and planners in the whole country. And once the Russians came, all left. Most of them are here in the United States. And now we have established a society called the Society of Afghan Engineers and Architects in Virginia in 1993 for the goal of becoming involved in the reconstruction of the country. Today, the membership in the society is over 250 people. Last month, on February the 8th, I organized a conference at MIT where Congressman Barney Frank attended. Honorable Harun Amin, Chair of the Affair of Afghan Embassy, attended. Dean of the School of Architecture from MIT attended. And about 60 professionals, Afghan-American professionals attended. And the goal is to get involved in the reconstruction process in Afghanistan. Now, if you tell me about the problems, there are a lot of problems in Afghanistan, and there is no one to do the work.
Right.
In 1996, I had an opportunity to go for a fact-finding mission just before the coming of the Taliban. In May of 1996, I went to Afghanistan. 1/3 of the city of Kabul is demolished. The other 1/3 has no services functioning. No electricity, no water, no sewer. The other 1/3, I would say, requires major rehabilitation. So a city of almost 2 million is not functioning right now. The countryside is destroyed. The basic infrastructure, the economy is destroyed. And then the past 3 years of drought brought another disaster to the country. So we're hoping that with the attention of the United States and the international world, the time has come to rebuild that war-torn country.
Absolutely. And thank you. Niamatola Najumi, you have just returned from a tour around the country. Tell us, from a political standpoint, what you see.
At this moment, we can see, as I mentioned before, a lot of joys on the faces of Afghans in many different parts of the country. But unfortunately, because of the mountain of the difficulties and shortages on all directions in every level, every sector of society, people are living under an environment of uncertainty. What does it mean is that they see the light in the tunnel, but they don't see really what is coming toward them. The interim authority, they do more than best that they can do. And some of the ministers that I have seen, they work very, very long hours in their offices. The head of the interim government, Mr. Karzai, is traveling all around inside Afghanistan and outside to try to establish civil administration in Afghanistan and also gain the international attention and support. I would like to say a couple of issues for our guests here, why Afghanistan is important for the United States. In the past 7 years, the fanatic groups and those who try to challenge the current human civilization in Afghanistan and other parts of the world, they introduce an alternative to make Afghanistan in a country the way they like, the way they thought is good for Afghan people. That alternative have been proved wrong. And what they offered for the Afghan people and the people in the area, misery, massive destruction, and massive and deep social, political, and cultural traumas. Now, Afghans try to stand on their feet. The level of destruction and the difficulties are so huge, big, and vast that it is beyond their scope of ability to build that country by themselves. For that reason, or for this reason, they need international support, international intervention, which makes it very logical for international engagement in Afghanistan. And also, we should not forget, Afghans were those who joined the United States and the world community and engaged in two very bloody war against the Soviet, and now against the fanatics and the terrorist networks in the region. And they are paying the highest price compared to any other nation in the world. And September 11 was a piece of what Afghan people went through for all these years. Therefore, the Afghan interim authority, headed by Mr. Karzai, they do their best to serve their people and also make Afghanistan a normal member of international community, a peace-loving member which they played in the past, and they wish to do so again. At this moment, among all the nations engaging in Afghanistan, the role of the United States is very important and very crucial. The job cannot be done, I repeat again, the job cannot be done in Afghanistan without the US leadership on all grounds, military as well as reconstruction and emergency situation. For this reason, we need not only the United States government, also the Americans, universities, training centers, educational institutions, town halls, and many other civil and civic organizations and institutions existed in this country. Afghans offering to participate in restoring peace, not only and security in Afghanistan, also in the region. And that region is critical for international security. The problem, if you get closer to focus more in the main difficulty that the Afghans are facing is the lack of workable system that provide information, serve the citizens of Afghanistan. And that lack of a system, or the absence of such a system, has many roots in the 23 years of war in that country, and also the lack of international commitment in Afghanistan. There is a strong need for massive technical assistance for the interim government. The interim government needs to be supported. That is the only legitimate institution so far we have in Afghanistan. And they need to be supported to provide the services that people require. And because of all these difficulties, there is not really a strong connection between provinces and the center. And the roads are damaged, the bridges are damaged, and the whole economic system being distorted. We have always heard that Afghanistan is an agrarian society, and 80% of the population living in the rural communities. That rural community completely shattered by all these years of war and 3 years of drought. Because of that, the foundation of economic system in Afghanistan being destroyed. The IDPs, millions of internal displaced people running all over in different directions. There are refugees outside of Afghanistan, especially in Pakistan and Iran. They are waiting and they wonder, go in or not. If I put it this way, we see hope, but we need to bring that hope into reality and in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Paul Fitzgerald and Elizabeth Gould, I think you can speak to the importance of the United States and the world sticking with Afghanistan through this time, and to help them in their independence, if I could say it that way. They need our help. So either Elizabeth, do you want to speak, or Paul?
First of all, we want to thank you so much for having this incredible event. It really is very satisfying. We were the first American journalists to get into Kabul after the Soviet invasion in 1981. And at that time, what we saw was a lot of what these people have talked about, touching ground even during a Soviet occupation. You could still see that this was an incredible place, and this was a special place. And to have witnessed over the last 21 years the day-by-day destruction of that place has been very difficult for us, having only been there for our short visits. What we really want to remind Americans is that there is a huge history of our involvement in creating some of the conditions that actually resulted in some of the trauma that did end up in Afghanistan leading up to the Taliban. And so there is not just an issue of Americans being open-minded, it's an issue of accepting some level of responsibility. There is an immense force in this country for good work to be done. And in working with the Afghan people directly, more directly than I think we may currently be doing, we need to begin to recognize how to work better with the people of Afghanistan directly and let them guide us. But there really is a history that goes back to the origin of the crisis that is a part of the work that we have been doing for the last 20 years, is studying the options that the United States really had going back in 1983 when we went there with Roger Fisher, who was the head of the Harvard Negotiation Project, to try and assess the possibility of negotiating the Soviets out. And at that time, we discovered that the Soviets actually were quite desperate to get out. And when that was brought back to Washington, there was little interest in following up on this. And it bothered us, actually, for the next decade. And so as we began to struggle with the impact of the Cold War and the mentality that that created, that really overrode any of the Afghan people's interests, superpower confrontation was the riding force. And once the Soviets withdrew, there was simply no more interest in Afghanistan. And that's a tragedy that Americans have to begin to come to terms with.
Humayun is studying nutrition and humanitarian assistance at Fletcher School. He has worked with the UN and the World Bank and a lot of other NGOs. And so talk to us a little bit about, probably about the area of nutrition and the problems there.
Mary-Lou, practically I'm not a specialist on the area of nutrition. I'm just studying it as a side subject. But mainly
Pick your subject.
Yeah. My subject is mainly the humanitarian assistance, and this is the area that I've worked for several years. And when you look at the reconstruction process of Afghanistan, I think Mr. Najumi gave a very clear assessment of what are the needs, and at the same time, where the shortcomings are. We all, I think, we agree from our previous experiences and also at the same time from what we hear all the time from the media, that the needs in Afghanistan are tremendous. There are a lot of things to be done, but it has to be prioritized from where we are going to start. We cannot solve all problems. And to do that, I would take probably a bit more time than you had probably allocated to me, just to drive home 3 points. Number one is that we have to look at the political rehabilitation process. And in that perspective, we need to look, before anything else, the demobilization and reintegration of the combatants back to the Afghan society. That is, I think, the very first prerequisite for any peaceful settlement. We have a new generation of Afghans, a whole generation who have grown up without education, and the only thing they have learned is war and nothing else. And probably a second thing, in addition to many other issues that should be there, is the formation of security and justice systems that has to be restrengthened. And from that point further, we should also look at the institutional and capacity building of the local government that has to be able at a short time to take charge of the government and also all the government departments. And also on the part of social rehabilitation, we are talking of refugees, and Nemat very rightfully mentioned about the IDPs. We have like 2 million people constantly on move, and there is no single UN agency who's directly dealing with internally displaced people. There are a number of agencies who are dealing with refugees, but not a particular agency is dealing with IDPs. We are talking of 4 million refugees who needs to come back and be reintegrated, and we are talking about 2 million IDPs that needs to be taken care of.
Including the Kuchis in this, the Gypsies?
Well, as long as they are coaches are always there, but we don't count them as IDPs because they're always moving. But the other IDPs, the term IDPs, for those people who have been living in their indigenous places but were moved because of the drought or the conflict or for some other reasons. And I think the third
in
point
their
here,
fields.
in addition to that, should be the reviving of the health and education systems. We need to restart with those parts.
And let's talk to Dr. Ghulam Gastgir about that. He has met with Tommy Thompson, and thank you so much. With Tommy Thompson, he is president of the Afghan Physicians of America, and go ahead.
Thank you. His Excellency, Mr. Amin, dear guests, friends, colleagues, brothers and sisters. It's a great pleasure to see you all here. And also really gave us some hope that we have friends who are not alone. We established the Afghan Physician Association in 1989. And from now on, we were working on the basis of individual cases. Whoever needed us, we were there. We sent books, we sent slides, we did medications, we sent instruments donated by our friends like Dr. Khaibari. So we did some help. But our doctors went there to help. They were not instrument to examine a potassium in the urine of a child which is dying of diarrhea. There were hospitals, but there's no windows. There were operating rooms, but there were no instruments. There were rooms, but there was no lights. They were operating in front of windows. They were operating under the oil lights and things like that. So those people, from man, woman, young and elder, all of them, they were brave. They were the people who fought for Afghanistan. Their surgeons are the best in the world. Their surgeons are the best war surgeons in the world. The experience they have gained during this period of time, and they have treated, sewed wounds with ordinary thread that you are sewing your clothes. Those are the people which to be admired. And I'm very proud to be part of those people.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Farhad Ahad, would you talk to us a little bit about, you are constantly monitoring on the internet the different feelings and the latest news, et cetera. How do you see the future and what's ahead? You came all the way up from North Carolina.
That's right, yes.
Thanks
for having me. I left Afghanistan after most of our family had already left, and we were the only ones actually left behind for another 5 or 6 years, hoping that things would get better with the war of the Russians. It's just a little bit of background. And it was a difficult thing to do, but after they took my father in, it was time to leave. They let him go after some time, accusing him of spying. But anyway, we came here and we went to the States, and I actually enrolled here at Woburn High School for my 12th grade. And here I was I had actually attended a German high school in Afghanistan, 12th grade, so I didn't really speak a whole lot of English. When I first came here, there was only one thing that we really knew, and when I stood there in front of our guidance counselor, Margaret Boyajian, here in Woburn High School, she said, "So what do you want to do after graduation? You only have 1 year." I said, "I want to be an engineer." And it's one thing that this represents the feelings of a lot of Afghans, young Afghans of my generation that have come here at their mid-teens as to what they want to do with Afghanistan. A lot of us don't really know if you like engineering, but you just come here hoping that you're going to go back and do something good for your country. And right now I have started this organization, Afghan Solidarity. We've been in it before September 11, long before that. And one thing that is in common amongst all of us is this overwhelming feeling that you are ultimately going back and you're going to take the baton from our leaders, from our forefathers, and you're going to do something afterward for them. So I did get study engineering here. I went to public school in Massachusetts and then went on to study some more. And there's a lot more to be said, you know, in terms of what I did and what we qualify for. And most of Afghans, which represents the other thousands that I'm talking about of Afghans that are in the same boat as I am. Mind you, there's 200,000 Afghans in the United States, which is quite a community actually. Massachusetts at the time when I was here, we're one of the very few families, one of the first families that actually moved here. So here we are right now with the help of the internet. We have put together a number of groups, and there's quite a few of them there today that has facilitated communication between us. Wherever we are, we're talking. We're looking for opportunities. A number of members from our group are already back in Afghanistan. We have Najla, Farzana, and a few other. We probably have half a dozen people right now, either on the way to Afghanistan or inside Afghanistan, once in a while sending us an email. I'm sorry, I can't write very long. It has to be short. We don't have internet access. There's no, but they get the satellite access from somebody for like a brief 10, 20 seconds. They send a quick email. It's really great to get those emails. It kind of gives us a perspective of what we're going to feel like when we go back there. A lot of them are absolutely ecstatic. It's really quite a feeling. We are ready. I mean, there's a very substantial community. We understand that the current administration has a lot of work on its hands. It's overwhelmed, and there's really, I mean, we're talking building a nation not from just zero, but we feel like it's sub-zero territory. We'll wait until things get better, but the community, I'm talking several hundred, is ready to go back. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Farhan.
Before talking about Sarah, I would like to say a few words about what happened in the past 20 years to the schools and education system in Afghanistan. After the Russian invaded Afghanistan, war started against the Russian. The Russians were able to keep hold on the cities, but outside the cities, there were bombing, some destruction to the school by bombing, and some schools were destroyed by anarchy and lawlessness. That war continued for 10 years. Relatively, the school and educational institution in the centers of the cities remained intact. After their last president of the communist president, Najibullah, went out of power, Mujahideen went into the cities. War started, civil war started between the different warring factions. The educational institutions, schools, and universities are destroyed in the cities too. I come from a second largest city in Afghanistan. Before the communist government, we had almost school for boys and girls in every village. In 1992, there was not a single school open in that country. It was very sad to watch that stray dogs and cats were running around in the buildings of schools, and the children were running on the muddy streets. We came together with some other friends that at least the Western friend abandoned us, but let's do something ourselves to our country. The least we can do, at least a few of us sponsor a school and open it and rebuild it. We succeeded to find 10, 15 people and registered a nonprofit organization which is called SARA, which stands for Society for AIDS to Reconstruct Afghanistan. We were able to raise $10,000 to $15,000 every year since then, and we send it directly some supplies to school, like stationaries, blackboards, and whatever the school needed, we have supplied that until 2 years ago. 2 years ago, due to United Nations sanction and also some demand from Taliban that those funds should be given to the government authorities, then should be spent on their discretion. We stopped providing this. We did provide some assistance this year. We would like to continue that. I am a physician. I see many patients in my office who want to stop smoking, and they ask for different medicine. They say there is nicotine patch, there's Zyban, there's this that will stop smoking for me. I tell them that the medicine is not going to stop smoking for you. You have to stop it, but the medicine may help you. Now, I think that we Afghans should start rebuilding building our country, stop fighting, and take the initiative to build our country. Other countries in the United Nations will help us. United Nations and other countries will not be able to build our country if we Afghans do not come together and start building it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, and I think that's what I'm saying. I did attend the SAE conference at MIT, and I was quite amazed at the interest in all the Afghans in really working for their own country. Okay, Weiss, can you say a few words?
I was supposed to talk about regarding information technology in Afghanistan, and I think the subject is appropriate since there is not much to talk about, so it's going to be real short. CIA fact book puts one ISP for all Afghanistan, and there was only about 10 connections that were really controlled during when Taliban were in control. There are a few computers in Kabul University, and there are a few computers also, old computers in Nangarhar University. And there are not much of a telecommunication to speak of. Right now, most of the IT professionals in America or Western and outside Afghanistan are working with the Society of Afghan Engineers to prioritize after other priorities, security and peace, to create and to connect Afghanistan back to the rest of the world. That's all.
Weiss, thank you. Well, I just want everyone to give a hand to this wonderful group of people, and they did such a great job. Every single one, as you can see, everyone is dedicated to helping their country, and that's what this whole conference was about. Just a little peek at the people who are who want this to work and will make it work. We are honored, in fact, to have with us tonight the Chargé d'Affaires, Haroon Amin, with us.
Permit me to stand and tribute to a very distinguished panel here, and also a tribute to all of you for having taken your Tuesday night to have come here. Permit me also on behalf of the Afghan government to render and express my thanks and our appreciation for the American people for the right struggle that they have engaged in Afghanistan. Thank you, Mary Lou. Thank you for all those who have helped organize tonight's event. Let me be very brief, and I don't want to take much of your time. I know that you've got experts here, and in front of experts, it would be a shame if I were to engage in a long conversation. But on December 22 of 2001, there is a process that has been set in motion in Afghanistan. That process aims to enable the people of Afghanistan to the right realization of the right of self-determination. The ultimate objective is to empower people to engage in free and fair elections, and to bring a paradigm of creative things and paradigm of sitting as civilized people behind a table and engaging in political dialogue rather than actually firing at each other from behind barracks and front lines. Indeed, Afghanistan has gone through any kind of injection of recipes for disaster for the last 23 years. First in the context of the Cold War, then in the context of regional war, and then having been invaded by an invisible enemy that was protected by an entity called the Taliban, and that was a draconian, with its draconian ideology. The alternate to the current process of Chairman Karzai's administration is basically either falling back into the abyss of extremism and fanaticism, and or it is disintegration of Afghanistan. All must be done to continue the process that has been started in Afghanistan. 6 months for Chairman Karzai's administration, almost half of that time is gone. Afterwards, it'll be indirect loy jirga that will indirectly represent the Afghan nation. Beyond that, free and fair elections. The key to that is engagement, both by Afghans as well as the international community. If we let go, we're actually going to relive September 11. The hotbed of terrorism is still there. Ideology with which the Taliban and Al-Qaeda were empowered, that ideology is still there and resonates, though it's not the overall paradigm of the Muslim thinking, but yet these are elements on the fringe and that they will be empowered again. So I urge you that as you go, as you sleep on thoughts, as you actually engage in weekly activities, make sure that Afghanistan is that one issue, because do not forget, not too far from this state, there was the event in New York, there was the event in Washington, D.C. Remember, abandoning Afghanistan will reproduce September 11. If you do not walk away, it will prevent that. You make sure you write to your congressmen and senators, and there's already a little bit of ambivalence in Washington, D.C. when I make my rounds from congressional room to another, from the Senate's office to another, that some would want to walk away. Make sure that does not happen. That's your responsibility. As far as the African-American population, permit me to say that if money and resources and expertise were sufficient for development, then Africa would be the most developed continent, and it's not. It's going to require the bulk of African-American experts from the United States, from other countries. We are an institution. We want to empower the Afghan people. We want to realize the aspirations of the Afghan people. It's a joint venture. It will require all of us. Let us help heal the wounds that have been inflicted on the Afghan nation for the past 23 years. Again, in tribute to all of you, I thank you so much for having organized this, and thank you once again.
Let's go on, and we'll take some questions from the audience. And you can direct it to any of our panelists here, or to you. Go ahead.
I'm in the process of applying for the United Nations volunteer, and the only thing that's holding me back is because I don't feel that Afghanistan is safe for security reasons. For those who've been there recently, if you can just talk about the security issue there.
Mr. Najumi.
In my visit to many different areas, you can see sign of securities in variety different levels. There are many volunteers, NGOs, UN staff in different parts of Afghanistan. And the organization that you are connecting should give you the information that give you the assurance to go to Afghanistan. There are difficulties, but what we see, it is not really all over. For instance, every part in Afghanistan is not like Gurdis in the in Paktia. In Kabul, there are so many international staff, and in Herat, in Mazar-e-Sharif, and other places. There are so many projects that really any go there will enjoy and get the warmth and support of the Afghan people and Afghan community.
Thank you. Dr. Dastgir?
Contact really to Afghanistan. I don't hear any lack of security there. There was a few cases that unfortunately still our neighbors are interfering and causing some trouble. If they stop that one, Afghanistan will be in heaven.
Heard say that this is a systematic process being carried out by a certain group. Can someone comment on it?
Mr. Amin?
Let me say that events are occurring all over Afghanistan. No one should expect an overnight transformation. There are cases of rape, there are cases of pillage here and there. There's also death of a minister, indeed. If you look at the campaign for the last 5 months as to how much has happened in Afghanistan, particularly after Chairman Karzai's administration, we can look at the achievement of the liberation of 22 million people, transformation of an entire nation in the immediate sense, and few cases here and there. Remember, they're all threats. There is the security problem. Permit me to be the first person to say that there is a minimal or minute level of security problems. That's why the reason for the expansion of ISAF forces. There's also the problem in terms of shortage of funds for the government to be a credible government and to be able to pay its own civil servants. There is also the problem, we name it, the government is dealing with that on all levels. But the fact of the matter is that the people have the enthusiasm, that the government has the resolve, and that the international community has the willingness to pour in resources to make sure that the process that has started is going to continue. The problems of rape in northern Afghanistan, it is very small. It is certain cases that has happened, but also remember that the issue of warlordism is something that needs to be overcome. The government, the failure of state is not so much that dissidents or that insurgents exist. It is the lack of integration and creating a new paradigm of creative things that makes those dissidents or those individuals engaged in subversive acts truly something stupendous. But again, these problems are there. Gradually, they will be overcome.
Thank you, Mr. Amin. Paul Fitzgerald, you wanted to say something about understanding. I thought you made a good point.
One of the things that we have seen over the last 20 years is the cost to the Afghan people. We have tried to tell Americans and the rest of the world about that cost and what the implications of that cost are, both in mythical terms and historical terms. As the place where Western civilization pretty much began, South Central Asia, the Indus Valley, is where we come from culturally. We may not think that in our Judeo-Christian society, but Zoroastrianism, the war of the light and the dark, the good against evil, it all began in Afghanistan. So culturally, ethnically, we are tied to the Afghan people. And I believe quite sincerely that our future as a nation, as a people, and the things that we believe in are very specifically tied to the future of Afghanistan. I think we have witnessed on unfortunate events of September 11th, the cost of not looking at Afghanistan for the last 20 years, the cost of allowing Afghanistan to degrade from the potential of a democratic society into a hotbed of radical fundamentalism. That was a choice that was made. We now have, as a free and democratic people, the opportunity to make another choice, and that is to get behind the Afghan government and to get behind the Afghan people, who, as you can see, are the most incredible and amazing group of people. They are more like us than we are.
The lady in white.
I'd like to know who would I address this issue to. I run the foster parenting group here in Boston for the Muslims community. I'd like to know, someone mentioned about there's a lot of children that need housing globally. Who would one contact to get in touch with?
Nancy? Nancy Kybery?
Child Reach Incorporated and Save the Children and World Vision are active with the orphans over there. But as I mentioned before, until Afghanistan is stabilized and can take part in the Geneva Convention, I think it's difficult to adopt children from Afghanistan right now. You can adopt orphans from Pakistan, as I went over there and did. But going into Afghanistan and adopting is not possible at this time. But hopefully in the future we can. And if you want to sponsor a child, you can do so through Child Reach. And if you go onto the internet, they will tell you how you can sponsor a child in Afghanistan. And I urge all of you to do that. There'll be no greater reward than to take care of an Afghan child.
But I'm concerned about, you know, bringing water in. Vegetation and trees.
For the people. The people need the water and the food. They are hungry and they are cold, and we are trying, so many NGOs are trying to, bring the basics to the people.
Afghanistan has seen so much evil for the last 23 years that indeed some of the casualties have been animals. Gandhi once remarked that the way society perceives civilization is how it treats animals. That is so true. But let me also say that lives were lost, 1.5 million, that's 10% of the Afghan population prior to the Soviet withdrawal. Many more were lost afterwards. The entire infrastructure of Afghanistan has been decimated. People have been basically concerned about survival for themselves, and people, it's not so much that they have really gone to kill animals, but rather that out of negligence and out of basically care for themselves that they've been neglecting animals. But let me just draw a paradoxical contrast here, and let me say that wherever you go in Afghanistan, and no matter how poor people are, the dogs are not put to sleep. The cats are not put to sleep. Now I know that at least when we use the term sleep, that we're talking about something civilized, but when you hear that in the United States of America, almost, more than a few million dogs and cats are put to sleep every year. It's not a very good thing to say, given that something like this it really exists here. But permit me by saying that the future of Afghanistan will be what we had before. Indeed, Afghanistan was not a paradise, but Afghanistan was at peace with its neighbors. It was at peace inside Afghanistan. And it was a country that had harmony both with its inhabitants as well as with its animals. That's what we're aiming to restore in Afghanistan, and hopefully it will be done in a pretty short time.
Thank you, Amin. Are there any other questions out there? We're coming to a rapid close. Let me just, Jennifer, Dr. Leaning would like to say something.
Could I just add a mediating comment, if I might, as an American who cares deeply about the environment and about animals and who has recently been in Afghanistan. I think that the question was perhaps phrased in a very American way, but it came out of a deep love for an ecology, not neglecting the people, but recognizing that we all live in an environment that is watered and fed and nourished by the land and the animals we live with, as well as by our human companions. I think that was the spirit of the question. And if I might, not knowing Afghanistan nearly as well as everyone here on the panel and most people in the audience, could I say that my understanding of how the Afghan people have survived through this terrible period of drought and war has been close to their animals, mourning the loss of their land, deeply aware of how assaulted they've been by land mines and cluster bombs. The Afghan population is overwhelmingly rural. The major issues of reconstruction, which many people here have said, are going to rest on whether the water can come back, whether irrigation systems can be rebuilt, whether the livestock can come back, and whether the land can be made green again. And it is an overwhelming task. We have to stay with the Afghan people, whether as Americans you are concerned about ecology, or whether you're concerned about human rights, or whether you're concerned about the survival of a magnificent country. We have to be with the people and the government of Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Leaning. Okay, I think we can just take one more question. Please.
Panel would comment on whether monarchy will have a role in the political reconstruction of Afghanistan.
March 21st of this year is going to be very symbolic for Afghanistan. It dates back to thousands of years, bringing back Nowruz, the celebration that the Taliban banned and Al-Qaeda never wanted to have anything to do with. The king, His Majesty King Zahir Shah, will return back in Afghanistan as a unifying figurehead, hopefully trying to jumpstart the whole process of Loya Jirga, which is indirectly empowering the people of Afghanistan to go about their right of self-determination. It was also a day when almost 1 million kids will go back to school, at least 300,000 or 400,000 of them females. The day when the University of Kabul and many other universities throughout the country will open. It will be a day when almost a third of the nation will either be engaged in harvesting or development or some sort of reconstruction in many parts of Afghanistan. There is a process in place. This process intends to empower the people of Afghanistan. I think the Loya Jirga would be in a position, let's say, by June 22nd, to either claim monarchy as the future path that Afghanistan would want to take, and or in the free and fair elections where the people can actually take a referendum on the issue of monarchy. The administration of Chairman Karzai, of whom I am a civil servant, serving the people of Afghanistan, we're not in a position to comment or to actually imply whether we want monarchy or not. I do not believe that we have the right to do so. I think it's the people of Afghanistan that can go about doing that, and either by June 22nd and or at the end of 18 months from that day, we will know exactly what the people of Afghanistan would want, and that is something that we are working hard towards realize. Thank you.
Najim Azadzoy and I would like to thank you very much for coming. I hope you've had some insight into the people of Afghanistan and understand why I have a show specifically focusing on the people of Afghanistan and trying to show the importance of sticking with them, staying with them through this period that they have. And I'm sure Najim wants to thank you as well.
Once again, Mary Lou Bigelow, thank you very much for this wonderful night. And thank you all for coming here. Thanks for the school, for the committee, and members of the school committee, and the city of Winchester and the residents to make this night happen. This was a wonderful night, a night of understanding between the two nations, the Afghans and the Americans, who are pursuing the same goal, the goal for freedom, goal to diminish, eliminate terrorism from the surface of the earth. And also I would like to thank Honorable Arun Amin to take the time to come here again. All our guests, especially those who come from distances, our great artist, Ihsan Aman, who came from Virginia, Sahar Aman, Ms. Malikiar, and all of you. Thank you very much. I wish you a good night.
And now you can, there's a little time left. You can go into the lobby and look at some of the new books that the library has been given as a gift for the area, and also buy books from Bookends. So thanks for coming. Let's do it again.
حله اسلام قلب آسیا جاودان بادا خاک آریا زادگاه قهرمانان جهان سنگر غیور مردان خدا الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر تیغ ایمانش با میدان جهان بند استبداد را از هم گسست ملت آزاده افغانستان در جهان زنجیر محکومان شکست الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر سرخط قرآن نظام ما بود بیرق ایمان با بام ما بود هم صدا و هم نوا و هم زبان وعدت ملی مرام ما بود الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر شاد زی آزاد زی آباد زی ای وطن در نور قانون خدا مشعل آزادگی را برفراز مردم سرگشته را شو رهنما الله اکبر الله اکبر الله اکبر
میخواهیم که یک چیز رو یاد بگیریم یا دکتر شویم یا انجینر شویم در کدام جای چی شویم معلم شویم به شاگردا درس بخوانیم و میخواهیم این شویم.
During the time of Taliban, we have made a survey among 40,000 kids, and they all say that the first thing they want is peace, and the second thing that they want was education. Why? Because when you are educated, you get the skills, you get the knowledge, you get the know-how forever.
Virtually all the girls in Afghanistan have been denied an education over the last 5 to 6 years. They've lost a whole generation of girls, if you will. And yet we know worldwide that if a girl gets an education, she is more likely to grow to an adult and be a healthy adult. Her children are less likely to die before the age of 5. Her family is more likely to be economically secure. So the multiplier effect of girls getting an even primary education is quite dramatic. Here is the first opportunity in 6 years for Afghan girls to come to school. That's why focusing on making sure the girls as well as the boys come back to school is so crucial.
Creating some